Hello. Good
Hey,
morning.
Roy. Good morning.
Robert Stanley, what a pleasure it is to be talking with you, sir. I've been looking forward to this greatly.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. This is all
Okay.
kind of new to me, so I
Yeah.
apologize if I have any technical issues on my end.
Don't worry about it. We all do.
So, all right, I'm recording here. I've watched several of your interviews. Just a little bit about me. I'm a musician. Um, I love it. I play guitar as well. Play some drums and keyboard. Give
Cool.
lessons at Guitar Center here. I'm out of Nebraska.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so kind of middle of nowhere. Yeah, I know you've kind of moved around.
Yeah.
I would love for you to give, your background for my audience, the people that don't know you.
Okay. Since you mentioned the musician thing and the teaching, that's actually what my son does. He's 20, he could be 27 soon. Yeah, he teaches at a private school, formerly was School of Rock, which he hated. It was just, yeah, that was, sorry, School of Rock. You guys suck. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Um,
Yeah, we want Jack Black back.
yeah, right. Actually, the School of Rock put that together as a pitch so that they could get more people to sign up, is what I was told. I thought it was the other way
Oh.
around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, because they are a franchise across across the country.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, but my son is also he plays multiple instruments and he composes and produces songs, original
Wow.
music. He does everything except the vocals, which he hires people to do because he can't sing that as well as he wants or needs for a particular song that he creates. But he still creates the melody and he gives them a demo track of him singing, the melody, and then they copy that with their own particular style. It's pretty
Wow.
amazing, man. Because I mean, it wasn't as a dad. It doesn't seem like that long ago that he was this big and he was just learning to play the piano a little bit, and it was frustrating because everybody hates learning piano when they're a kid, at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
I wish I
but
would have
yeah,
stuck
it's
with it.
it's amazing. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I wish I would have stuck with piano. What's your son's name?
Arthur. But his okay, but his I don't know if it's you call it a stage name or his art. Oh, sorry, the artist's name is Sad Boy XX. So uh,
Oh,
it's SADBOIXX.
I think I've actually heard of him.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he does EDM, and I never even knew what that was until he said, "This is what I'm going to do." Dad.
Oh
Like,
wait, that's
like,
so weird. I work with a guy who's a DJ, and he was just talking about Sad Boy. So
wow. Well,
okay,
yeah, it's blowing up because he has really good music and um okay, there's a lot of musicians in the world, but there's not that many actual composers that are worth listening to, in my opinion. I mean, really, there's not that many. My mom was a concert pianist, so I got exposed to alt music from even before I was born. She was playing classical piano while she was pregnant, so I heard all the best music. I mean, relatively speaking, really, really high level stuff. And so I wasn't telling my son what to do, but I also I could really see, I could hear, this is, whoa, I mean, he went from when he was a teenager. I had a studio kind of like this where I would do music, and I was also desktop publishing and all stuff. And he would come in. He had a little band and stuff, and I would support him with whatever he was. And then, he goes, "Dad, I want to record some of my songs." I'm like, "Okay." And then I said, "Yeah, okay, let me show you how it's really pretty simple." And he would get on the system, and he would get so frustrated with the computer. He had it all in his head. It's like he already heard the finished product, and he'd get so frustrated with trying to use the computer to actually put the layers in there and then trying to mix it. And I mean, that's a whole nother thing that has nothing to do with music.
for sure.
So So years later, when he graduated from college there in Rhode Island at the university, we were living in Hong Kong, and he came to us, and he's got a degree in business, and we tried to get him into the finance because that's, I mean, Hong Kong's a hub for international finance. He went on a few job interviews, and he told us, he goes, I, I'm going to hate my life. Yeah, I'll have some money, but I'm going to hate my life, working 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And he says, I really have my heart is not in it. I want to pursue becoming an independent artist. And we're, man, you got a degree, but okay, look, we're going to give you he said he needed like 2 or 3 years to do this. I didn't think so. I thought it would take more. But I watched him, and I already knew a little bit about musical production in the computer. He just worked it and worked it and worked it. I mean, it was unbelievable how much he would show me what he was working on. I'm like, whoa, that's so over my head. I more power to you, man. If you can do that, go for it. And even still, the art of mixing is actually a science, but there's an art to it. As he said, it's a lot like cooking. Anybody can cook something. It doesn't mean it's going to taste good and people are going to love it. It's a very individual, because there's so many little components that you could put together into the mix to get
Absolutely.
a final product, right? So anyway, and he also came up with the avatar of Sad Boy, which has he drew out the character, and then we hired a professional artist to render it. It's interesting because he doesn't want to really use his face per se. He created this character, Sad Boy, and Sad Girl, Sad Dog. I mean, it's it's evolving into this whole little life of its own, and
a whole sad world.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
a happy sad world.
I mean, he's not a sad person,
right?
But he's being very strategic because he does have a business background, and he's very much an entrepreneur. And I'm just watching this going, wow, I mean, I'm in awe of his, not just the talent, but his dedication to making I mean, people don't realize how much work it is to get to this level. But when you really break through to the top, it's ridiculous how much time and effort and passion you got to have in order to do that. So anybody who's listening, who's an artist, including yourself, I respect you guys tremendously.
Wow, and I can tell how proud you are, and I'm sure Arthur, he's gotten a lot of inspiration from you and the work that you've done.
Well, he doesn't follow me. Okay, you know how kids are. They don't. It's like they got to break away and do their own thing. He's not into any of this metaphysical, spiritual stuff. I mean, he's aware of it, but he's totally focused on growing up and being his own person, which is great.
Yeah.
He should do that. But like, okay, one song, he normally writes love song. I just got it, and then I'll get off the subject. One of our neighbors, who's the same age as Arthur, he came over to we had a little garage band party one evening, and this guy shows up. I never seen him, and he was being friendly, and I engaged him in a conversation that apparently was he needed to express this to somebody, that his dad had died when he was young, and he was obviously really loopy. I mean, he was on whatever drugs, and he was suffering, I could tell. And then so we had this conversation, man to man, even though he really was sort of, I think when you lose your dad at a young age, you sort of some part of you stops growing, because you don't have that. Especially guys, they really, I mean, my understanding is if your dad dies or you get divorced or something, it stunts your growth. So we had a conversation and he met Arthur and the rest of the people. And then a few days later, he OD'd. Yeah.
Wow.
And his spirit came to me that night. And it kind of scared me, because I mean, I've gone through stuff like this before, but he came right up to me in the dream, I was in my bathroom doing something, and he appeared behind me, and I was like, "Whoa, hey, whoa!" I said you could come over anytime, but like, well, what are you doing in the bathroom? And then he just kind of vanished. And I thought, "Whoa, God!" And I told Arthur, I said, "Man, something's wrong." And then a couple of days later, he said, "Hey, just wanted you to know that that guy passed away and he overdosed." I was like, uh. So apparently, Arthur really felt it too. He's a very, very heart-centered person, and he wrote a song called "Fix Me," and it's that boy, the young man, crying for help. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Fix me. Somebody fix me. Because he could tell I was trying to do that for this kid. He could see what I was doing. Like I said, I try to help everybody, but anyway, I'm telling you, this song "Fix Me," I'll send you the link later. Oh my God, I can't listen to it. Every time it makes me cry. And that's not the point. It's just like, it takes a whole nother level of maturity to encapsulate, to literally capture the essence of that event, of that person, of their life in just like a few minutes of song. It's so dramatic. I mean, God, even one of my friends who's a lifetime professional guitar player, he said it wrecked him listening to that. And he's known Arthur since he's a little boy. And he's like, man, Arthur's like a genius. When it comes to that, you can't teach that. So it's a gift. It's just a gift, and I'm glad that he's sharing
For
it
sure.
with people. That's all. That's all
Wow.
I'm gonna say.
That's amazing. And I've heard of him. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, I'm not just making
What?
that up to.
No, no, I know. I
I've
believe
heard,
it.
I've heard of him. I'm not a DJ myself, but
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
DJ friends,
yeah.
and one of my DJs who one of my DJ friends who recently actually lost his mother. He's really into
Oh,
Sad Boy, and so wow, okay, I'm definitely
okay.
gonna listen to him, and it sounds like he's doing his own light work. So maybe the apple doesn't
Yes,
fall all that far from the tree, huh?
that's right. That's right. His label name is Heart and Soul, and he's got a new EP coming out very soon. Um, okay, one more thing.
Please.
He's a bit of a diva, and I mean, some people say a perfectionist, because in his mind he's already heard the finished product. And if you if you try and say, well, that's not good enough, he goes, no, it's not finished. And he's so focused on recreating or manifesting what he's hearing in his mind. And like I said, that's the thing about a real artist. Like, even as a sculptor, you look at a stone or a piece of wood, and you, in your mind, heart, soul, whatever, you see the finished product, and that gives you that's your blueprint that you work with towards the goal, the finish line. And I'm telling you this because one of the hardest, most frustrating things for him was finding the vocalists and then working with them, because a lot of people are out there on the internet right now saying, "Oh, I'll sing for you," and of course their demo tracks are polished, and you don't have no idea what kind of work ethic they have, especially online. People are just like, sorry to say, but most people these days are lazy. They don't have much of a commitment level, right? And so the frustration was just like, oh my God. But he stuck with it, and he learned kind of the hard way too, how to work with these people, these singers, vocalists, to get the final product. Some of his songs are duets, and it's really interesting because the people are not in the same room, right? They just get the track and then they do this thing, and it's like there's a level of magic in that, going from concept to the finished product it's like, hey, I got an idea. Hey, really? Oh, and then here's the finished product. Like, whoa, hey,
And it's
good job.
also I don't know if you've listened to a lot of Neville Goddard's work before. Um, he talks a lot about kind of esoteric
Yes, of
Christian
course.
mysticism.
Sorry. Yes, we call it, my friends say, are you on the Neville level? Yeah. Have you attained that? Well, yeah, I do. Okay, thanks for reminding me. Sometimes I forget about him because he was such a very quiet person. But his message is very, very powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've only kind of in the last couple years gotten into his work, and before that
Uh-huh.
I kind of fell out of the Christian loop. I think I kind of fell into maybe part of a trap or a I don't know, kind of a larger psyop that I think a lot of people my age and the younger generation kind of fell into.
Hmm.
Um, but learning about his work and seeing the Bible as every character is an aspect of you, almost more like a
Yeah,
Buddhist way of reading the Bible or a Gnostic way, rather than like a historical document.
yeah. And that's a difficult thing to do is look at it metaphorically. Some people want to take it literally and apply it to everybody else's life. It's a yeah, religion was created by man, and it's a flawed interpretation or interpretations throughout time and different localities, and eventually we'll get past that.
Yeah, but like your son's great ideas with music, it starts in his head, right? And
Right, right.
and uh, yeah, the process, the dedication it takes to get something from the mind out into the world, just like Tesla did with
Oh
the
yeah.
Tesla coils and all the great inventors, right? So
Yes, right. They visualized it first.
for sure, and I think that's what your son's doing, and that's what he's very successful with it, and I'm sure you're just proud as a father can be, and I'm really looking forward to learn more about your son's work. So thank you
Yeah.
for
Sorry I got
talking
off on
with
that
him.
tangent. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
absolutely not. Don't be sorry. Um, and religion was indeed created by men. Do we want to talk about the specific group or the we actually know the name of maybe an organization or two that maybe has actually had some hand with
Yeah.
infiltrating Christianity and turning it on its head in a way, and the politicization of everything. So I don't know how much you want to talk about that.
Well, I could briefly address it. I mean, I just summarize it this way that this happens to every great avatar or master that shows up and gives a message. It's like the game of telephone, whatever they said, by the time it gets over here, even if there was no ill intent, there's just a kind of a distortion that happens over time, because we tend to interpret things and not always very well. So um, the bigger problem is the fallen angels and how they really encouraged us to follow or fabricate and follow religions that served them under the guise of them being God Almighty or our creators that we must worship. And there's a lot of confusion, or even still, I mean, the work of Zechariah Sitchin has become a religion. I call them Sitchinites, and and that's not to be derogatory. I met Sitchin. I talked to him on the phone. We exchanged letters back in the day when people actually wrote letters, and then we met one time in person because we had a mutual friend who's a Mason. I'm not a Mason, but I'm just, I'm open to. I'll talk to anybody about anything, really. It's kind of weird, when you get to know somebody and you think you know them, and then one day they go, "Oh, I told you I was a Mason, right?" No, you skipped that part. I mean, I know you worked for the government, some capacity, and then yeah, right, which is always weird. And don't get me wrong, I do respect people that work for the government, but I also know how corrupt it is. Same thing for religion or any other profession on this planet. And again, it's not like we're victims, but we have been abused.
For
We
sure.
certainly have been abused individually and collectively over time. So,
And I think, like what you just said, when it comes to the people that may be working in one place or another, they might not have that ill intent, and
oh, right,
they might be a part of something that they might actually think is good. And
right.
like you were just saying about those fallen angels, wouldn't a trap be to trick someone into thinking that there isn't a God? Because if you believe in God, then you believe in the devil. But if you don't believe in God, then you don't know who's pulling your strings, right?
Right, right. So
So
hey,
yeah,
but that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, there's so much of this stuff is really, really, really distorted. I mean, from a biblical perspective, when they're talking, the way it's presented, the narrative is like there's only one God in the garden, and here comes the adversary of God, which is it's like it's controlled opposition. This is good God, bad God kind of thing, you know, that they're pulling on us. But anyway, we are not victims. We are really more like children in a school that is we're learning. You know, I mean, let's put it this way: when we go to school, we are presented with problems that we must solve, and then they test us on that to make sure we understand how to solve those problems. It wasn't we didn't cheat or we just got lucky or whatever. And that it's a metaphor, okay,
and
for
then
what
if
we're
they create all of those problems, then they don't have to take any of the responsibility for all the things that they've done, and basically just continue to make slaves of people with like social responsibility so they can go off planet and not have to answer for any of the evil that they did and make us feel like victims, right? Make us
well,
feel.
in a limited sense, I know what you're saying, but in the bigger scheme of things, they are going to be held accountable, and this is all coming to a screeching halt. It's been going on for a long time, even before they came here, and it absorbed us into their evil empire. And some people are calling that a simulation. It's more of an inversion of what God created. So the fallen ones created this zone that I mean, it's their domain.
I think Tom Campbell calls it like a matrix within a matrix.
Yes, yeah, it is. So we're actually kind of isolated because of that. Doesn't mean we can't break through. It does take effort, and that's why I've been doing my part to help people make that connection, a heart connection, because we're not we're not entirely isolated. There's a way, if you want, we can. I've done it. Other people have done it. So-called enlightenment. It's not an overnight thing. It's an ongoing process. But the whole concept of duality is people think it's just unique to this planet, but recently, and I think I sent you this, the new revelations. Is mostly confirmation for me, but it was very interesting to read how on the outer perimeters of creation, some of these entities who fell created something out here that eventually started to encroach on the rest of creation, has been doing so for a long time, relatively speaking. And left unchecked, eventually it would infect or affect all of creation. That's why God had to intervene and is still in a process of intervening, which I know it's kind of hard to believe because, religious interpretations are a lot of times are just very manipulative and incorrect. So I can see why people would be skeptical, but honestly, I got to tell you what, even if you don't believe it, it's not going to stop it from happening. In my opinion, this is already a done deal.
Right.
It's just a little it's a little complex. It's like untangling the Gordian knot, because these guys made a mess, and gals, whatever, these fallen ones, they made a very big mess. And God and those who are loyal to him, let's just call them angels of light, are working diligently to undo that all throughout creation. But of course, we're focused only on ourselves and this planet. What is really interesting to me is in the new revelations, it says that this is ground. They call it planet zero, but I'm going to say it is ground zero. It is center stage for this process I call the divine reset. And I didn't know what else to call it. But as soon as I started saying that this year, when I took a break, okay, and I came out with Rex Bear, a leak project, and I mentioned it. Some retired school teacher up in New Hampshire heard me say that, and she said, I think this guy might actually understand what's in the new revelations, because she'd sent it out to a few other people. They ignored her or didn't read it or whatever. She sent it to me and I looked at it and I'm like, well, thank you. And then I read it. Of course, I was skeptical. And then I forced myself to go past that skepticism. And then I realized, wow, okay, I get it. It's like it's exactly what he told me back in 2013. Everything was going to be revealed. But that's not something you can do in a soundbite. He said it would take 10 years. And even then, we're still not going to understand everything, but everything that we can comprehend and then apply it has been revealed at this point, as far as I'm concerned. A lot of us still haven't got the memo, but
Yeah.
it's like this. If you get in a car, you start it and it goes, that's good. If, got gas, the brakes work, whatever. You don't have to know how every little thing functions in the car in order to use it as a vehicle. The same thing is true for this divine reset. I didn't know all the details. I could just see it coming. I mean, for whatever reason, I have a very strong connection with God.
What's your zodiac? Can I ask real quick?
Yeah, this is my birth month. I'm actually turning 63.
Okay, so Scorpio?
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
That's all right. That's fine.
Divine reset, you have
Yeah,
a connection.
Okay, so and some people hear this and they're like, that makes sense. Oh, I want to participate in that. And I'm grateful that people feel that way. But honestly, even if you just sat there and watched, it helps if we participate. Let's put it that way. Especially honestly from the heart, soul, whatever. That's going to help accelerate the process, hopefully to minimize some of the impact it's going to have on ourselves and our loved ones, because it's going to be traumatic. I guarantee you. What I saw, like I said, in 2013, when he showed me, when I say he, I'm just going to be very straight up with everybody here. I'm talking about the Lord Jesus Christ. Quantify it this way. I am not religious, even though my dad was a minister. I always had, up until recently, I've always had a problem with the religious presentation of God, Jesus being God. That made zero sense to me until I read the new revelations of how God created this vehicle that we call Jesus and why he created that particular extension of himself or herself, or however you want to quantify God. Obviously, it's the thing is, because the definition of God in religious terms is all powerful, all knowing, all present. How do you fit that into something like a vehicle like this? That doesn't, logically, it made no sense to me, but that doesn't matter. I realize now that was kind of like a prejudice that I had. And also, I don't, look, I have a brain. I can think, I can rationalize, analyze. Give me some facts, please. I don't want fairy tales about you got to have faith, sorry, I don't. I can choose to just be more analytical if I want to. I can be analytical and spiritual at the same time, because none of that stuff that they've been telling me or writing about in religious terms made any sense at all. Actually, I felt insulted by it, Anyway, now I know. Oh, and the other thing is, you probably heard me talk about this, and so have a lot of other people over the years. When I had that out of body experience in September of 1985, and I was in the light, that was God. That light is God. Okay, I was connecting with the Creator, and the way it chose to interface with me is through this avatar, this vehicle that we call Jesus. That's why when it came up to me and faced me like we're doing now and having FaceTime, and he did say, "I am the Father." I did not, I could not at that time, I wouldn't allow myself to accept that. I made like this little loophole. He either said, he might have said, "I am your father," like, Star Wars or something, because I didn't want to accept. If okay, if I accepted the fact he said, "I am the Father," that meant that he is God. And what am I doing talking to God slash Jesus? Because especially as a young man of 25 years old, it was hard enough explain. I was trying to explain something to people that I didn't even understand. But if I had said and blurted out, "Hey, Roy, I met God," like, "Hey, good for you, Robert. I don't know what drugs you're on, but it just doesn't go well. It's not a good conversation, and especially if I didn't fully understand it." Okay, and that was 85. I did. I mean, where are we? We're now 2022, and I'm still trying to digest and comprehend that. And not just, okay, it's not just for me. In the new revelations, they're talking about this, as we mentioned before. There's this conflict going on between God and the adversaries, the fallen ones. So not only would it be socially incorrect for me to say, "Oh, I met God and Jesus," whatever, but it would also make me a target. And I have been targeted, like everybody. We're all being, we're kind of caught between good and evil. And so as a young man, I probably would have been in a lot of danger. I already got slammed pretty hard by them. I think, like I said, everybody does to different degrees. But if I'd come out like that, yeah. So, I mean, you see what they do. Like, they like cutting people's heads off and
And
nailing them
so
to
that was a
trees.
different time too. Like things have
Yeah,
changed so
a
much,
lot.
and on,
Yes,
like
good observation.
with what we're doing now, like there's still risk, like you said. But
Not as much, not as much, because
and
look, things started changing in 1987 a lot. Between 87 and 2012, there was an increase, and this is part of the divine reset. I know this now. Waves of energy have been washing over the planet, and it's coming from God and the angels. They're broadcasting this just energy, because they don't want to violate our free will, because the benevolent ones never do that. So it's amplifying our consciousness. So if you're in the dark, it's going to make you even more dark. If you're reaching out for the light, it's going to help you like rise up. And that's one of the ways that it's also in the process, it's actually pushing us apart. We're totally, that's why we've become so polarized. We're totally incompatible. So I feel like the divine reset is an ongoing process up to a point, what they call a tipping point. And when we get that fulcrum point, and then suddenly it goes dook like this, you're going to go. A lot of people go, "What happened? How'd that happen?" No, well, it was gradually coming to a point, and then it's you
do you
go kind
think
of over the edge.
that's a part of entering the age of Aquarius? Like maybe on
Yeah,
just one aspect of.
yeah. That's one way of looking at it. I think everything's going to change. Everything is going to absolutely change. Back to, it's like it's going to reset. I'm sorry, but that it's so funny, because the dark side, what I say, they invert. They're calling it the Great Reset. Yeah, right. For whom? Who's it great for? Oh, yeah, the
Not
fallen
us.
angels. No, not, but here's the thing: the upper echelon of the dark side, they know the divine reset is already in play, and that's why they're so desperate and dangerous, is because they're trying everything that they can to try and either prolong it or prevent it, and it just isn't going to happen. It just isn't, in my opinion. That's it's not wishful thinking when I say that. By the way, I'm brutally honest with people. I try to be with myself too, because I don't like people just telling me what they think I want to hear. That's not helpful. And
Definitely
I
not.
do think we're supposed to help each other. Okay, this is why I spend a lot of time doing this for free. Is because freedom is not free. We've got to work at it, and we need to help each other in that process. I mean, it's and I don't mean violence either. People say, "Oh, there's a war, there's a spiritual battle," and okay, yeah, but if you fight fire with fire, you're just going to have a bigger fire. God's love is not like that. It's more like, if, oh, hey, there's a fire, let's dump some water on it. It's the opposite. You got all this hate going on. Well, you can't hate the haters. You just become one. So no, this is, like I said, it's the divine reset. It's benevolent. It's coming from God with the assistance of these angels of light, or shining ones, also known as Anunnaki. Boy, was I surprised. I tell you what, man, as much as I do this, it's not a hobby. It's my life. And I can't tell you how often I am just like stunned. Oh, yeah. Before we end this, I got to tell you, the day I saved that boy's life, I've always been confused. Like, was this some sort of kind of setup or something? I feel like it was. I realized, I heard somebody say this recently. They were allegedly having a conversation with God and asking, "Why are you permitting this abuse of children?" And God allegedly said, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." The dark side, the fallen ones, know that the children are more connected to me, God, and that when they torture the children, I feel it. They are trying to, and they are hurting me through those kids. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa. I get it, but it's very personal, because I realized God was using me, not manipulating like a puppet, but giving me an opportunity to help that boy, his grandparents, and God, who was suffering in that moment as that boy was being tortured by these demonic entities that were around him. So I'm telling you this because now it makes perfect sense. It's logical that by doing that and making myself available up on that mountain, really elevating, ascending to that higher plane, and opening my heart, well, of course God would connect with me, and on that level.
Absolutely.
Just saying, everything is being revealed, but that part was like, blew my mind.
So, do you just want to start another meeting and I can edit those
Okay,
together and we don't have to
absolutely, might
go?
as well. Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
we're on a roll.
Speaking of the dark ones trying to suppress us,
That's okay.
so yeah, I have the free version of Zoom here.
I
I'll just start
gotcha.
another one here. So yeah.
Okay, you're gonna send me a link.
All right. See you in a second.
Thanks. Bye.